Fire meaning heat, the basic temperature. The body exists in a certain temperature. An upper range and a lower range beyond which body cannot exist, beyond which most of the existence are not possible. All existences are possible in a certain range of temperature only. Anyway, I just made a little bit of a deviation here. Now let us look at we will come to space at the end. Now look at fire. Fire meaning heat. Fire does not mean in English actually. Agni. Agni is the actual Sanskrit word. Sometimes the words are very misleading because of the commonest reference attached to it. Get the point, Ramesh. Our language of interaction in this program is English, and fire is very highly familiar. By the way, Nitya, familiarity trap working like a double-edged sword. It is a trap.
Yes.
Certain familiarity trap from which we cannot escape. And certain familiarity trap which we take it for granted and we never care. So there are either side. Okay, coming back. The referent of the term fire, English word fire, is often that yellowish kind of a thing which is hot, which is very hot and which can burn things and things like that, which is generated by the burning of some energy producing substance like wood or coal or so-called other fuels. So the Sanskrit term, rather the Ayurvedic term for fire is Agni.
Something that will consume other things.
Yeah, Agni consumes other things, of course. Agni helps consuming.
And fire in our tummy helps to consume food,
Yeah.
digest.
For indigestion, which is quite common, the Ayurvedic term is Agni Mandyam. That means Mandyam meaning slowed down.
Mhm.
Slowed down in speed, in capacity, in quality, etc., in force, etc. Agni Mandyam. That means in the abdominal canal, in the alimentary canal, from the duodenum to the end of the small intestine is the area of Agni. Agni, they're actually then correlating with the Western science. They are the acids and the enzymes and other whatever chemicals, so-called chemicals released by the various glands like bile or pancreas, and there are some few other glands. So that generates the fire, the Agni in the body. You have to focus your attention on that. Is it possible? Now coming back to the same set of questions, like I asked you, can you focus your attention on the center point of the nostril? Not exactly the center pinpoint, except the walls of the nostril. Because as soon as you focus on the nostril, you feel the touch sense of the air only. So those questions we asked and deliberated on that. The purpose is to make your consciousness sensitized to these fundamental truths. That is all. As I told you the other day, all knowledges, all knowings are nothing but sensitization. All actions are also sensitization of the movement tendencies of the body. Everything is sensitization actually. To have a different relationship with this existence. That's what our definition of genius. I told you the highest definition of genius. greater than genius in music or genius in physics or genius in technology or genius in whatever. They're all, I would say, very mundane aspects of things. So, will you be able to focus at a very preliminary level? Will you be able to focus your attention on the current temperature of the body? For example, try that. The interior temperature. Try doing that for some time. For that, better focus on your abdomen, internal abdomen. Do that for about 3 to 5 minutes. It is like a what you call, like a chunda. What is the English word for chunda, by which we catch fish? Angler, right? Yeah.
Fishing.
Like an angler, you dip down your attention through the esophagus and then go and then put that hook, bend that what you call that thread. It is like a like a solid material. Put down that hook very gradually, and then bend that string of the hook, and just to keep it about more or less 1 inch, more or less 1 inch below the navel button, and keep it there. 3 minutes to 5 minutes. Do it. Do you get any feel? Are you able to feel the temperature there? Are you feel that so-called certain heat there? Do you get it? It is very dependent on the ambient temperature and the body temperature, because it is like enlightenment, It is all the time, so-called condition of enlightenment is all the time present, but we cannot differentiate it. Similarly, the entire body is in a certain temperature, 98.4 degree, whatever it is, entire body. But if you are able to fix your attention just 1 inch below the navel button, around that space, you will get uh, you will get a feel of the heat, whatever we name it as, of the body. Begin by imagination. Good. That's a great thing. Which you are talking a totally different level of imagination. Normally, conceptual imaginations are there. You are now imagining a feeling. That's great. Okay. All right. Imagining, you may feel it one day, because imagination works as a kind of a catalyst. Okay. All right. When the ambience is relatively of low temperature, you may feel cold around the skin. Perhaps at those times you can feel potentially the heat of the body. But the entire heat of the body is generated around the abdominal region. It is the cauldron of the body. I just mentioned you, for example, if you are able to have your so-called samyamic attention, forget, we will not be using that word. It doesn't correlate within a referent. Reflective, focused attention on the heat of the body, then you will precisely know more or less that area where the heat is generated. Heat is precisely generated there. Otherwise, where you thought? Heat is generated in the brain, heat is generated in the heart, or in the buttocks or thighs or anywhere. It's almost in a kind of a what you call a port around the inside the abdomen. If a port, if you can imagine a translucent port inside the abdomen, and around it is not a center point, but let us say around roughly 3 centimeters a sphere. Sphere is the point where in Ayurveda it is called the Jatarakni. And in fact, in the Himalayas, there are certain yogis who have accessed direct linkage with that center point. And even in ice cold, on ice, they can sit without any problem. They walk stark naked in minus 10, minus 20 degrees centigrade without being affected by the inclemental temperature outside. They can generate heat. They just like putting the first gear, they just generate heat. In fact, one of my trainers by name Santosh Varghese, he was in the Himalayan regions for about 10, 15 years, and he was quite fascinated by that. And because he happened to be most of the time with a certain yogi who was a master in that, and he got some clues on how to do it. And one day he worked as a kind of a guide for the visitors there also, because he was there for about 15 years. So one certain time they went into the deep, little deeper and higher areas of the mountains when the temperature was apparently minus 10 degrees centigrade, whatever it is. And the entire team of visitors, they were wearing some 3 layers of sweaters or whatever it is around their body, then gloves, and then head covers, especially the ears covered, neck covered, nose covered, and all that. And he went with a simple what you call t-shirt and pants, not even jeans. And reaching there, of course, it was night. Uh, he just doesn't bother. He removed all his clothes and stayed there for about 2 hours. But that was not ice anyway. I told you about certain sect of the Tibetan monks sit on the ice slabs in the water areas and things like that. Anyway, I said these examples to tell you that when you have that kind of an access, you will never have any problems of digestion or virtually no forms of illness will ever enter your body, actually. No illness, because it is fire which can burn everything. I don't tell you not to do this. This is all I told you to sensitize your relationship, that yourself, that operating person inside you, that self that you are aware somewhat right now sitting there. It is not Nitya or Meenakshi or Ramaya or Asudhi or Ramesh or Veena or Naveen or Anuradha or Vinay is there. The body is there, but basically it is the self. Whatever that is, let us say the word self. Rather than the word I, or the you, or the I inside you. Whatever you refer to by the word I, that will come much later. After variant, invariant, and all that, only we will go to the referent of the word I, or my, or me, towards the fag end of our interactions. Coming back, so that is that element called fire. You can also feel the heat of the body when you focus your attention on the nostrils also, Nitya, right now. Because that returning air will carry a trace of the running temperature of the body. So, air, fire, and the external fire also is very important. In fact, all the worshipping of fire, Agni is one of the great devatas, or so-called deities, or so-called focal points in especially in the Rigvedic tradition. Because without Agni, actual fire outside existence, I mean, the organic existence is not possible. Fire purifies. By the way, that purification power of the fire only is activated by your attention, sort of locking on to fire. The entire body will be sort of purified. Anyway, so fire in real yagas, in real homas of the greatest order, there will be elaborate pujas and mantras to invoke the fire. Then only they will actually create the fire. Homa, the word homa itself means to put into, to burn, to fire, to offer to fire. That's the root meaning of the word homam. Offering to fire. Homa kundam. In fact, the center point of any yaga is the homa kundam, where the fire. That's why you light a lamp. Fire is light. In fact, the root of all colors is actually fire, the fire element. Rather, the expression of fire is light. So when you achieve a little bit of a differentiation of that abdominal port, abdominal translucent port, which face up towards the navel button, and if you are able to imagine your attention like a butterfly hovering around the inside of that translucent port kept upside towards the navel button, then a lot of experiences and perceptions and evolution of your entity, I mean the neural system, are possible, will happen to you. I don't want to talk about that. And when you are able to achieve it, your body will become very streamlined. Your body will become very natural. What could have been your body size, shape, texture, etc., would be achieved automatically, gradually, of course. You don't have to do any dieting or exercise or anything. Those kind of mysterious things are there. That's all just to discuss. That's all. We don't have to go to that level. That's not required. These are all experiments and experiences. Just like that. These are Everests which you can climb. Just like that. And that fire has a correlation with the air. Air meaning whatever is that axle of existence, axle of organic wheel, is next connected actually to the fire. Like by the friction of the axle on the hub, there's a temperature generated. So by the friction of the axle of the air on the organic wheel of the body, the fire is generated actually there. Not by any other things. Not by the so-called food materials or anything. Of course not. So as much as possible, every day when you take bath, apply a little bit of oil into the navel dip or that navel button, and just gently apply pressure with your middle finger, and slightly apply pressure, slightly, and gently move clockwise direction. Oil is not required, but oil is required for the efficiency of the movement only. Otherwise, there will be friction. That's it. And you know what is that point? What is the importance of that point?
That's where the port.
Huh? What is the importance of that navel button point?
That's
It is
because
all
Gordian
the
that is
knot.
nerve
connected to
endings
God,
which
Gordian knot.
It's connected to the mother
yeah,
womb.
the
the
nerve
where
ending.
which we are
Yeah,
created,
connected, not connected to your mother,
connected to the womb, connected
Womb.
to the
not connected to the womb, connected to nature process,
connected to the rich process
by which the entire organism was,
made,
what to call, of course,
developed.
created, generated, originated. That is the correct word, Nitya. Originated. And there are three, actually four, but primarily three points in an average about 1 inch uh, distance from the navel button. Okay. And after properly trained, after properly training the strength of the three fingers, okay, you just press it, somebody else, not on you, somebody else, you just press it and give a turn. That person will immediately fall down. Most of the time, entire body paralyzed. That's a great marma. Anyway, that translucent pot of the fire generating thing, that fire generated by the uh, rotation of the creature, rotation of the wheel of the entity upon the axle of air, the universe of other processes in the body happens. And at the time of natural death, the connection between that axle and that pot is lost.